In this video, I will teach you how to edit with Audacity. We will be using a series of audio elements to produce a short story. I went ahead and already recorded my voiceover narration. I didn't use a script. I just simply talked into the microphone. The short audio element that we will be putting together talks about my teaching philosophy. I also pre-selected one clip. We will cut a second one together, and we will be using music. Be careful with music. You need to make sure that you have the proper rights. So I downloaded a song from the YouTube studio. It is royalty free, so I can use it. The first step will then be to open up a file to import it. So we'll click on File, Import, Audio. And I already created a folder on my desktop called Audio Editing Demo, in which we have the clip we will be using, the second one, Lights, which is the song. It's an MP3 file. We have my voiceover narration. I called it NAR, and the clips are EX. That's a convention used at Radio Canada. It's a naming convention, so I've been using it. And then we have a recording of a course I taught. It's pretty long. It's an M4A file, so we will import it. So the system needs a few seconds to import the file, and notice that it says FFmpeg. FFmpeg is a library which you need to download alongside Audacity in order to manipulate files such as M4A audio files. M4A is the audio component of an MPEG-4 video, which is a standard nowadays. So make sure that you not only download Audacity, which is an open source software, but that you also download and install FFmpeg, which will also allow you to export in different formats. So we're good. I had FFmpeg. We have the audio recording. An interesting thing to notice is that it says that my rate here, my sample rate is 32,000 hertz or 32 kilohertz, which is the standard for Zoom. The normal radio standard is 44.1 kilohertz, and for TV, it is 48 kilohertz. What does it mean? Generally speaking, the higher your frequency, the better the quality. So 32,000 or 32 kilohertz might sound a little bit more metallic than, say, 44.1. I am actually recording this video with Zoom, sharing my screen with myself. Therefore, the audio quality will be a little bit lower than in some of my previous videos, but it does the trick nonetheless. So I said that we already have our other elements. We just need another clip. I will go ahead, and I already know more or less where it is located because I had explored my file before. So I will zoom in, and it is around the 2-minute 40-second mark. I can click here to put my playhead, and you need to make sure that you are on the selection tool. You can either click on it or click on F1 in order to play the audio. So I'll click on play. Much nicer on my end as well to see a bunch of lovely faces instead of a bunch of black tiles. So thank you for that. Before we start, are there questions, comments? So that's what I want, the part where I'm asking students whether they have questions or comments. The one thing I did, you might have seen on my screen here, is that I pushed on pause, not on my space bar, not on play to stop, because if you click on play to stop or on your space bar and then click on it again to play to restart the playhead, it will go back to the beginning. Whereas if you use stop, it will, or pause, it will pause there. You can either click on it or click P on your keyboard. And when you click on it again, so I'll click on P, it will start playing from the exact same location. Everyone can hear me okay? So I know that my clip is roughly there. I will zoom in, and we will look at our levels here to, like, the waveform, to find the exact starting point for our audio excerpt. So we'll remove the pause here.
Yes, correct.
Oh, I'm too far. So let's click on stop because my playhead is too far along. So I'll click on stop and I will bring back my playhead at around 2 minutes, 30 seconds because I know that it's around here. So let's play. Much nicer on my end as well to see a bunch of lovely faces instead of a bunch of black tiles. So thank you for that. Okay, so before we start is here. So I clicked on pause and I know that it's in this part of the waveform here. So I'll put my playhead here, stop, put the playhead, there we go. And I will zoom in. And there are different ways of editing with Audacity. You will find your own technique. In my case, it works. So I'm here and that's the beginning. There are two things I can do. I can either click here and select more or less what I want, or you could click here, click on edit, clip boundaries, split, or you can do it with your keyboard by clicking on Control and I. So here, Control I just created, or is it Control L? Doesn't seem to be. Oh, I was on Shift, sorry. So Control I, there we go. I just split the beginning of my clip. Now let's keep playing. Before we start, are there questions, comments? Perfect, that's the end. I will do Control I, not Shift. And it went back to the beginning, okay. There we go. And I will zoom out. Again, it's a bit finicky sometimes. So now I have my points. I could technically click here, okay, and drag it down if I had another track, or I could technically move this around if I didn't have anything else. In my case, I will simply use my splits so that I know where to select. So I'll come here. I will click with my tool. So I'm back to the, notice that to try to move things around, I went to the time shift tool, F5. We'll see it in a few minutes. And I went back to selection tool. So I will just select my audio here, more or less. There we go. Click on File, Export, Export Selected Audio. I will only export the few seconds that I just isolated. And you could use markers as well. Again, there are several ways to edit with Audacity. The same goes for most software out there. Just find your own technique. So select audio, and then I will save it as EX Marié hello, or questions. Let's put questions. It will be easier to find it. There we go. And I will export as a WAV. You could technically create several tracks and drag and drop your items. And that's a technique that I use sometimes. But when you start out, it's best to select all of your clips, to write your scenario, and to re-import all of your audio elements together so that you can put your piece together nicely. So I will click here on X to close it. And then I will click on File, Import Audio, and I will select my two clips by clicking with Control while holding Control. I want both clips. I want lights, which is my song, and I want my narration, my comment. I do not need the raw Zoom file. And you see that I have WAV, I have MP3, I have M4A. That's where Audacity and FFmpeg combined together become very powerful. It's pretty seamless for you. You don't need to worry about converting the files, but in the background, the software will do it for you. So let's import everything. There we go. Now you see that my project sample rate is now of 44.1 kilohertz because my song here is at 44.1 and so is this clip. So that's fine. I will leave it as is. You could always go up or down. I'll leave it at 44.1. Click on File, Save Project As. And that's good. So I'll click OK. Now I will call my project, which will have the extension AUP, Audio Editing Demo. And click on Save. That's very important so that it will save. I could copy all of the selected files into a folder. I'll do so. It's much safer. And then you have a folder that you can move around. It's a little slower, but let's do it. There we go. Didn't take that long. Now, what I like to do is to have my clips on my first 2 tracks or a few tracks, then to put my voiceover narration and then my music. So to move tracks around, you can simply click on the track and move it like that. Now it's here. I can make this one bigger. I can make this one smaller. If you click on mute, you can mute your tracks. So let's mute my music. Let's mute my clips, and we will listen to my narration so that you know what we're working with. So I'll click here, more or less with my playhead, and I will start playing it. Hello, my name is Jean-Sébastien Marier, and I have been a part-time professor at the University of Ottawa since 2016. I teach mostly 3rd and 4th year journalism and communication courses, and my teaching philosophy really boils down to one key principle. I invite students to maintain an open line of communication with me. That's why I start most of my lectures asking whether they would like to say anything. Here's a soundbite from a recent online course I taught. Okay, so that's the first section, and you will notice that I left a few seconds in between the different sections of my narration. It makes editing much faster. So I'll select this here, or actually, I'll select the beginning here. I don't need that. And then I will come in between here and I will do Control-I so that I can splice it. I will select the time shift tool, or I could click on F5 and I will move this section around. Then I will come use this one here and I will do the same. I will do Control-I and I will move this section around. Okay. Now, what I want to do is that I want to start with a little bit of music, my narration, and then I want to play my clips. So this clip here and the other clip will be in between my narration. And now that I have several tracks, notice that I could technically drag it down, but I find it cleaner to edit with several tracks. What we could do though is put both of our clips on the same track in our timeline and close this one off. There we go. Already a little bit cleaner. I will mute this, unmute the top, and we will just put them in the right order. As usual, if you have questions, feel free to get in touch with me. Otherwise, good luck. So that's actually the clip that I want at the end. So I'll click on F5, or I could use the time shift tool and I will move it. Oh, it doesn't want me to right now. That's because I'm on pause. So click here. There we go. I can shift it here. So that's more or less what our final edit will look like. I have, if we unmute everything so that it's easier to see, we have here our song. So we will have a little bit of music. It's not quite a song, it's more like just background music. Then my voice will come in. I am talking about my teaching philosophy. Then we will have a short soundbite from an online class I taught. We'll have a little bit more of me explaining my teaching philosophy, another up sound, and then a conclusion. And if you zoom in, so let's move here. Oh, I need to select the selection tool. If we move here and zoom in using the plus here or Control-1, you'll notice that this is quite long. So I can come here and just select and delete to clean my heads and tails. And I know that generally there is no sound here when I'm when it looks like that. So just clean them. Let's move a little bit to the right and let's clean this as well. Let's clean this. We'll just clean the beginning and the end of each of our clips and of the narration so that we don't have kind of a humming sound in the background. All right, let's reuse the time shift tool. Now let's look at the waveform for our background music here. This here means that it sounds like, or it looks like there is a natural fade. So let's keep that in mind. We will mute our narration and clips, and I will go back to the beginning and we will listen to the background music. So it's a little too loud. You can click here and reduce the gain. See here, that's the view meter. We will aim for about -6, which is generally a standard for audio projects. For video projects, we'll aim at -10. Now it's going over a little bit. We don't see a red bar appearing here, and that's a big relief. If we saw a big red bar, that would mean that we are clipping. In this case, it's just a bit too loud. It goes to about -2. So I will go ahead and put it at -4. Let's go back and re-listen. Okay, that's much better. So I will click on stop here. And I know, let's reselect. It's kind of finicky. You'll get used to it. You need to think about selecting the proper tool. There are keyboard shortcuts as well. So that's more or less where I want my voice to start. So I will unmute the voice track and I will use my time shift tool, F5, to move it here and see how it's kind of magnetic a little bit. So I know it's there. Perfect. Now though, if I come here and with the tool play. Hello, my name is Jean-Sébastien Marier, and well, you don't hear me. It's way too loud. So we will use this other tool here, the envelope, or F2. This will allow us, if we click on stop, it will allow us to play with the levels like this. So let's lower everything a little bit, and I will re-enhance the levels here where they were. I could technically click here and just widen a little bit my track so that I see my levels better. And what I will do now is that I will leave the beginning of my music at full level and I will lower the rest. So I will come here and you see I have little markers. I will simply fade under like this. And let's go back and play. Hello, my name is Jean-Sébastien Marier, and I have been a part-time professor at the University of Ottawa since 2016. I teach mostly 3rd and 4th year journalism and communication courses, so that's much, much better. Two things though. I noticed that I went a little too low with the beginning. It was at like -10, so we could boost this ever so slightly, just like this. And it's still a little high behind my voice or under my voice. I will lower this a little bit more. And you see that this is a stereo track. The two tracks here are mono. Once we export, everything should be stereo because I will make sure to export a stereo file. So let's listen again to our edit. Hello, my name is Jean-Sébastien Marier, and I have been a part. That's much, much better. We'll zoom out. And now I will reactivate this first track here, and I will zoom in, and I will come cue my first clip more or less like this and more or less like this with my narration after. My voice levels look good. If we come back here and play, you'll notice that I'm about at about -6. And I have been a part-time professor at that's good. Let's see what it sounds like at the end here. Bite from a recent online course I taught. Before we start, are there questions, comments? I also encourage students to book an appointment with me during my office hours whenever they need my help. To become a good journalist, you need to hone your skills. So that's good. I like how I went from my voiceover narration here to an up sound from my class. Of course, it's kind of confusing because you're hearing my voice here and there, but I wanted to do kind of an autobiography. So it works. My levels are okay. We could lower maybe the entire track here a little bit so that the music does not overpower what I'm saying. So I'll put the gain here at -6. The difference between using this slider here and using the tool here, the envelope tool, is that the slider will affect the entire track. So that's fine. And that's fine as well. I have 2 more elements to play with. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to finish the edit. I will speed up the process and we will listen to the final piece together. All right, so we are back. I will go back to the beginning. So skip to start by clicking on this button here. And let's listen to the entire piece. Obviously, it's not perfect. I did a very rough edit in order to show you how to put together a piece. I would likely apply a filter maybe to adjust some of the levels, to normalize the levels, although they're pretty good right now. But this is a pretty polished piece given the limited time that we had. So I will click on play and let's listen to it. Hello, my name is Jean-Sébastien Marié, and I have been a part-time professor at the University of Ottawa since 2016. I teach mostly 3rd and 4th year journalism and communication courses, and my teaching philosophy really boils down to one key principle. I invite students to maintain an open line of communication with me. That's why I start most of my lectures asking whether they would like to say anything. Here's a soundbite from a recent online course I taught. Before we start, are there questions, comments? I also encourage students to book an appointment with me during my office hours whenever they need my help. To become a good journalist, you need to hone your skills, and you also need a good mentor. Therefore, you need to communicate with your editor. And that is the role that I play whenever they have to produce a news article or a multimedia element. Therefore, I conclude most of my lectures by reminding students that if they need my assistance, they only have to ask. As usual, if you have questions, feel free to get in touch with me. Otherwise, good luck. So that, in a nutshell, is my teaching philosophy as a university professor at the University of Ottawa. So that's the piece. There are a few more things I could do. You might have noticed that we went a little bit over -6 here and there. I could use my envelope tool to fix all of that. At the end, I could make the music a little longer maybe, but I'm pretty satisfied as it is. So there are 2 things left to do. First, you will click here on File Export, Export as WAV to export the entire thing. And then you will click on Save Project, Save Project. You don't need to save it as, you've already done that. There you go. So that's pretty much how you would go about editing with Audacity.